Doing it for the love, so now I'm doing what I want.
I did it for the love of the shit.
Doing it for the love, so now I'm doing what I want.
I did it for the love of the shit.
Hip hop and rap, yeah, that's where my heart's at.
Welcome in, everybody, to episode number 32 of the Fantasy Firebox. John, it feels like it's been so much longer than 32. I mean, we have 150, a heat ratio. I don't know where 32 comes from, but whatever. I'm Tony Jigsaw Cotillo, joined by Mr. John Coker, and back once again, Miss Anne Shorr at ANESHORR. SHORR. Really easy. So get the followers up. And Anne is coming straight from Vegas. Listen, you see the background. She is living it up right now. It's 80 plus degrees. She's having a good time. And thank you so much. Welcome back on the show.
Thanks for having me. Always nice to be here.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, there's a lot of jealous people right now. I can tell you that.
I'm just grabbing money and going. This is a quick trip, and I will be back here end of March or August for the Summer NBA League.
Love it. I love it. And listen, the last time you were on, you gave the -11 Villanova. You hooked everybody up. Again, you can follow Ann at pickdogs.com. She does pre-one picks there. You go live every day or every other day on the drive? The drive.
So just like either once, twice a week usually.
Okay.
I have a busy schedule, but I get on, as much as I can. So last week was crazy busy. I didn't even get on last week. And then the week before that, I was on twice. So it just really varies on my schedule. You know how busy I can be.
Busy is good, right?
Yeah,
Busy
exactly.
is good. And listen, the NCAA, I want to dive right into this because I used to be a big college person back in the day because I was a big John Chaney guy, and I used to love the Atlantic 10 when they actually had the A10. I go back to the Palestra and things of that nature, but I've never really bet on college because I've always been scared because, it's like you just never know. When the NCAA tournament comes up, it could be anybody's play. Doesn't matter. You see the Cinderella teams, the Gonzagas of yesteryear, right? But then you always know that players like Duke and Kansas and UNC and Nova are going to be there. But what do you have any kind of, like, I don't want you to give away your strategy, but is there any certain thing you kind of look at when you're talking about NCAA?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Lately, I've been kind of really following a lot of the Mountain West, and I'll start off by saying that because this is the first time in a while in years you've seen so many Mountain West teams are making the tournament, and like you said, this is anyone's game. I mean, for instance, St. Joe's. I mean, they hadn't won any games all year, and now they're just winning a bunch. And it's really, it's hard to tell because, the one thing this time we're in a pandemic where there's not really any fans in the stadiums. You have one or two college games going on with fans, but I try to get out to as many games as I can to feel out the energy. And it's a different kind of energy. You got to go look at these. You got to go with teams that are winning and are playing well and without fans in the stadium, and they get their energy and their motivation from each other. And one thing I will say is, you can't underestimate some of these teams. I'm leaning towards Utah making top 8, Final 4. Some of these Mountain West teams are going to come out and surprise us. And Gonzaga, they are dying for a championship here, and this team is. That's one of the teams I've been riding with. I'm not big, I haven't really been on Duke much, and we can dive deep into that, but I'm really looking at one thing to watch out for is what I can recommend people viewing the show right now is start doing some research, start doing your homework on these Mountain West teams. They're going to be the ones that are really going to surprise us in the tournament this year.
Now, it's funny. I want to ask both of you. John, I'll go to you first because when I even look at college, I don't even look at the players. I look more as the coaches. I've said this before. I think coaches win tournaments, in my opinion. So I'm always looking who's on that front line, who's on that bench, because I feel like if you go with those unbelievable coaches, remember guys from back in the day, like a Bobby Cremins or a Nolan Richardson or a Dean Smith or a Roy Williams, and now you have Jay Wright Villanova. We were talking about it all week. Johnny, you look more towards coaches, or you look more towards the team and the luster behind it, kind of like the heritage, so to speak?
Yeah, I don't really look at coaches, but you have to look at those big programs that are there year after year. The Dean Smiths of North Carolina, the Krzyzewski, although, I was a big ACC guy. But, so call it what you want. It was the program. Did the coach have something to do with it? Absolutely. But I also think there's so many more surprises nowadays than we think of when we think about those historic coaches, of powerhouse teams. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of dark horses nowadays. I mean, you look back, what was it? Butler was it Butler that was in the Final Eight? I think, handful of years back. Or no, George Mason, I believe. George Mason. George Mason. I don't know if they might even been in the Final Four, but I made out real well that year. I remember that. So, but I think there's a lot more surprise teams. So I don't really look at coaching as much as, what teams are catching fire.
That's a good point, because you just never know. That's what's so great about the field of 64 is you just never know. You always know that some of those top teams are always going to be there, but just to see that Cinderella factor, and I know, and just from a handicapping perspective, some of these teams, especially, I mean, that George Mason year, I can't even imagine how much money people won with such an underdog like that. Is there any one team that maybe, I know you mentioned Mountain West, that maybe that you think could make some noise in this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, it's so funny because I just been lately on the West Virginia. I mean, and
yeah.
and it's funny, John had mentioned the players over the coaches, and I completely agree with that. It's really comes down to especially not having fans in the stadium. But the one thing I do like about West Virginia is you got, and yet it's a shame they lost in that overtime last night, but they weren't favored. But their coach Bob Huggins, he is a win. I mean, he knows how to coach to a win. He does. And plus, on top of that, those players, they have a lot of heart and determination. Looking ahead, really, Baylor's a good team to look at here. I definitely am leaning towards Gonzaga. I think it might just come down to those. They're definitely going to be in the top four. It could just be, I think it's going to be around with one of them. I still diving into this a little more.
Oh yeah, it's early.
But I'm I've been so obsessed with these Mountain West teams that it's just ridiculous. And I think we're going to be very surprised this year. And the one thing is I'm fading Duke for sure.
Yes.
They're not, they had Zion Williams for that 1 year. And after that, they just a completely different team. And there's a lot going on. And it's also another factor you have to consider too, is with the pandemic, what game, if there's going to be players that are going to be out, or if there's going to be games that, could be canceled. And I've been looking at another thing is what the teams, what I'll do is once the teams start getting in, making, once you got a list of the top 10, 16, whatever, Sweet 16, I'll start looking at those teams and break them down individually of, okay, how many, with the players and who sat out, how many games did this player sit out, how many games were canceled because of COVID. You got to factor that in as well, because that's another thing that people aren't thinking about right now.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
I have a question, if I could chime in.
Yeah, man.
So, and I love March Madness. So if you had to pick, look, obviously we don't know the 1s and 2 seeds, but in general, just take the top 10, that we have now, or if you want to put someone else up there, out of those teams, which team do you think will be out first?
Ooh.
So think of your top 10. Which of your top 10 do you think can have an early exit? And I know it's early. I don't want to put you on the spot.
Your top 10.
I can run down the top 10 to help you. I mean,
your top 10. I would. Oh.
Well, I think Gonzaga.
Honestly, you ready for this? I'm going to blow your
right?
mind. I'm going to go with Michigan.
Oh, there you go.
You know what? That's the one. That's the one that I would go with too.
I'll probably have to lean towards Michigan on that. They're just not good. Really, I just rather not get into that. But if I had to pick, and it's funny, I would definitely, I would say Michigan. Yeah.
She was like, "They're just not good." I love it.
I love. School, you know, they're
Hey.
more football, but I just Michigan. There's something about them. There's something, and I wish I could go see them play in person to figure it out. But I would definitely lean towards Michigan on that one.
The funny thing is, I feel like, and this is no disrespect to the Wolverine alumni here, but I feel like they've been riding the coattails of the Fab Five forever. I don't know, like maybe it's just me, but like since the Fab Five, have they ever been that good again? Like I don't. I mean, maybe just because not watching college basketball,
Yeah.
but I feel like they're riding that forever.
The thing is about Michigan too, it's a big public team, so the public for some reason just loves taking them. They love Michigan, and I just think they're going to be a big letdown.
Oh my God! Listen.
I always say Michigan as much as I can.
Listen, I don't doubt it. I'll tell you, like we were talking about this on the Gambler the other day because the odds came out, and I know they're plus 1,200, but I still like Villanova's chances to get to the Final Four. Whenever you have a coach like Jay Wright.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but I know they lost to Butler the other night, and I know it still stings, but I always look at teams like that. I mean, you mentioned Bobby Huggy. I love Huggy Bear is one of my favorite coaches, man. Huggy Bear is from his days as the Bearcat in Cincinnati. It's always been one of my faves. But how about you, John? You're on the Michigan wagon saying as your pick an early exit too, or what?
Yo, I'm a Penn State alum, okay? A Penn State alum will not pick Michigan for anything. So, no, can't do it. Sorry. I don't care what sport. I would love to see my Nittany Lions in the tournament, but maybe next decade.
You never know. Never say never, right?
Never say never, right?
We've learned that this year for real. Never say never. Ain't that for real? But let's get into, before, actually, we got a fun second plan. But last week, or I should say, I think it was 2 weeks ago, when Anne was on the show, it might even be 3 weeks.
It's been a little bit.
Yeah, it's busy. That's all right. It's all
I'm
good.
busy, yeah.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But she gave us a fantastic free pick out there for everybody. And by the time the show got over, I couldn't even get the bet in, so I missed out. Which was Villanova over Marquette minus 11, right? Is that right? So and it hit. And tonight, I think you have something special for us. Are you still going with the same thing you mentioned to me earlier?
You know what? Let's do it.
I love it. I love it. And I'm gonna write it down right now. I'm a banner. So what are we going with tonight?
We're gonna do a little. The Villanova one. That was that's what I call a 10-unit play tonight. This one's a little bit smaller because I am gonna take a total. And we are in March Madness, and things are heating up. It's getting a little crazy, but we're gonna go with the total tonight instead of a spread. And I'll keep it with college basketball. I think next time I come on your show, I'll do a little NBA. But so we're gonna be looking at the Maryland and Northwestern game. And the total's sitting around 131.5 right now. I haven't checked it to see if it's moved or not. The game's not for another hour. So you guys have some time to put in your bet on that one. Well, the thing is with this game, it's a Big Ten. So last year the teams played each other. The total was also set at 131, and that ended up being Since it ended up going over last year, it was a 143. Maryland won 77-66. I see looking at the action going in on this game, it seems it's about 50-50, but the big money right now is going in on the under. And you have Maryland, who's ranked 7th in Big Ten, and you have Northwestern, who's ranked 13th. And the spread is it opened up at minus -4.5 in favor for Maryland, and it's truly mind blowing because it's like, why is this so little? Like you had a Northwestern, they went on a 13-game losing streak, and finally got a win over Minnesota, I believe it was, and then you got Maryland, who's on a 5-game winning streak. This team just keep rolling with it. But if you break it down number wise, Northwestern is putting up about an average. I think it's like 70. Oh, it's going to think of this year like 71 points per game, and Maryland's putting up around like 69 points per game. And points allowed, Maryland's allowing you 65, and Northwestern's allowing a little bit more than that, about 71, same as they score. But I like the over here. Maryland is shooting over 46% from the field goals, and Northwestern shooting 44% from the field goal. So it's like you almost have a 50% chance every time they shoot inside, the arc is going to go in. And the thing is funny about this Big Ten game is Northwestern is home. And in Big Ten, really, you see, these home teams, they could dominate and, crush. They crush and dominate pretty much. And what it breaks down to is like, why is the spread only -4 now? It was opened up, like I said, -4.5. And I think tonight what we'll see is a fast-paced game. We're going to see both these teams come out, and if Northwestern does keep this within the spread, then I would expect us to go hit that one, hit past that 131.5. And really it comes down to is like, I just see the score being well over 70-60 something. And the interesting thing I pulled up was Maryland's defense is ranked 51 and in the NCAA, and Northwestern's defense is ranked like 211. So usually when you have a solid defense, and I'll go back to the offense real quick. I'll enter Maryland's ranked sitting around 220th for offense, and Northwestern sitting around at 173, 172 for their offense. So usually we have a dominant defense versus when you have Maryland's defense, it's worse. And usually when it's worse with a better defense, you are going to see going against a team that's ranked higher on offense than their team, the scores tend to go higher, especially in the Big Ten. Usually it seems like it could be neck and neck, but about I would say 76% of the time they do go over. So, yeah, I really am expecting this to be a fast-paced game. And one thing we will see is the fouling at the end. So when both teams go into the bonus, we're going to see if Northwestern's down, we're going to see them to start foul and try to drive it down and get a quick 2. And that's enough to me to really put this over.
I love it. Listen, I don't know how. Listen, you just spent like 3 to 5 minutes talking about Maryland and Northwestern. I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even tell you what the mascots are. Okay, you're like, I love this. This is what I love.
I've been obsessed with this game lately, and I don't know why. It's the worst. I don't know why. I'm just like, let's go. I'm ready to see what happens here.
Listen.
I'm obsessed with the spread too. I'm like, this is weird. So. And I've been checking what the public's on for the spread, and it's to me just what I decided to do was go with the total here.
Well, let's see if we can go 2 for 2 here.
I know. We're changing it up with the total.
I like it. But no, that's great. Listen, again, the Shore. We're going to call this the Shore bet. The Shore bet. We got Maryland, the Northwestern taking the over 131.5. Now. Come with that great analysis. I got to have a little fun before I get you out of here. We got about 3 minutes with you on the line here, and me and John are going to get into some dead to me list. And we say this all because there are people I can tell you right now that I don't care how good they are, I will never ever draft them or start them. Keenan Allen is my public enemy number one, by the way. But is there a team, even if they look so juicy, it doesn't matter. They're just so dead to you that I'm not touching you at all.
Oh, well, we'll get into this with football down the line with college football. I have a big list with that. John mentioned the A10 earlier, and we'll start with that one. I would go with George Mason in the A10. They're on my dead list.
I love it.
Just can't get the job done. I just went to a George Mason game, and
that's right, you did. Right.
And I took the under for that game, which hit, but I put a small bet on it. Said, maybe they'll, and they've been on my dead list for a while. They go into double overtime with St. Joe's, and you don't get the job. They won, but again, they didn't cover. And it's the fact that even St. Joe's at the time was playing with like 6 players, and they still, it's like you have to go into double overtime to beat this team. But perfect example, like they were down by, I think they were -7 or something to start with, but they were down by like 13 at halftime, and then they came back and they won by like 5. And it's like, if you just are able to just have it only down by 10 at halftime, you would have covered. And I was at that game, and it's just like they weren't taking. I was yelling, "Take your time, take your time." They just weren't taking their time. They're just rushing in, trying to shoot the ball, and they just miss after miss. And the other team rolled right, or it was George Washington. They played, just rolled right over them. And it's like, this is a team that you should easily be by double digits, especially when they're ranked much low. George Mason, since I believe I haven't checked the rankings lately, they're around in the middle, and George Washington is near the bottom. So
there's
just one you're dead to me team.
Well, there are though, but you're right. It's you need more. It's like you expect. We're not asking for much here, and I'm not trying to be greedy, but just do your job. Like in football, if you're a kicker, right? Just kick the damn ball, man. That's all you got one job to do. Just do it, right? And so there's man, I could be here all night talking about my dead to me list. Everybody's on the dead to me list. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and I was like, it's like halftime, and I'm in Virginia, and I can't put a bet in for George Mason for what it was. I think the spread had gone to like +4 at halftime, and I'm like, oh, they're easily going to cover this, and I couldn't do it. So I like text a couple of my friends. I'm like, put this in, make a quick $50. So they made out all right, which was nice.
That out. See, I need friends like Anne. Here you go. $50. I like that.
Just
man.
a few of my guys that they love their live betting. I love live betting too. But
that's the new thing, man. Everybody's on that live betting. That live betting is key.
I'm like, this is great. Usually I'm screaming at the TV, and I just scream at them in their face.
I love it.
Yeah, that would be one of my.
That's great. But listen, listen, it's 8:00, and I know you got some stuff.
I appreciate that.
Right? So I know you got to roll. I want to thank you as always for coming on this show, coming on this program. We're gonna get more of you as soon as you have time. Again, the short bet right there, Maryland, Northwestern, take the over 131.5. The total again at ANNESHORR. Okay, it's that simple. It's her whole name. Go follow her. She does pre-owned picks for pickdogs.com as well. She's killing it. She's in Vegas right now. Anne Shorr, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll get you back on next week.
Thank you so much for having me, Tony.
And have a safe trip. Have a safe trip as well.
Yes, thank you so much. And I should be looking to be back on next Wednesday. So
awesome.
We'll probably dive into NBA then.
Yeah, I love it.
No, wait, they're on a break. I think they're on a break. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? We'll have to. Maybe we'll do some NHL. I'm undefeated in NHL right now. So
yeah. There you go. I like
and again, that. Everything's documented over at Pick Dogs and Sports Chat. So Sports Chat.
Right here. Listen, it's all right here. Please check her out. She's on there. There's the sites right there. Pickdogs.com, sportschatplace.com. Check her out. Sports handicapper Anne Shorr. Thank you so much again. And you enjoy the
gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me. Enjoy your night.
All right,
Good
you
luck.
too.
Thanks. Take care.
There she is, ladies and gentlemen. Anne Shorr. Listen, John, let me tell you something. I say it all the time. When I hear her spitting out numbers like that, I get excited. I do. I just absolutely get excited. I'm like, wow, like I couldn't break that down like that if I tried, man. I really couldn't.
Yeah, that's way more in depth. I mean, I do a lot of research, but my research is done usually like on a weekly basis or something. I mean, for the things that she does and the in depth she gets into particular matchups, like she said, Maryland Northwestern. Like that's not like it's a marquee game, and you only have a couple days to like actually do your research. You got to be on top of your stuff, man, and she is.
Yeah, I listen. If anybody's going to Vegas, man, like she's just she's straight just rolling out there, playing some games and coming home, and she already knows she's going to win. That's when you know you're legit, right? That's when you know you're legit. And it's funny because give a shout out to my girl Tori from A2D. She hooked me up with Anne, and Tori's wonderful as well. And she's like, I think this is a girl you guys could really kill it with. And Anne just got started on Twitter. She's not a big social media person, right? But she talks numbers. And John, you know that it's like the perfect marriage too here, because John's not a social media guy either. He's just a numbers guy. John, right? And I know you can respect that she's not all over social media like that.
Yep. Yeah, social media is that's a tough nut to crack for me.
It is. So let's do this. We'll make the fun segment towards the end. I want to go less than.
Isn't this all a fun segment?
It is.
Come on, let's get real here.
It is, but I'm going to get real excited about killing people off on my dead to be list. Okay, so that's going to be fun for me later. So let's get right in and get a good idea talking about some NFL running backs, free agents. Okay, and there's a lot of big names, and we're talking about this based on a fantasy level. Okay, where we may think they could wind up, and if they wound up at that destination, what it would do for their fantasy, appeal compared to what they were last year. The first guy, John, and I'm going to let you talk on him right now, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on social media right now, and I'm going to tweet out that Maryland Northwestern pick for everybody to get on that, because I got about an hour before tip-off, the Shorr pick. So let me ask you this. Aaron Jones, does he stay in Green Bay? And you keep hearing about Miami. It feels like the dots keep connecting him to Miami. Now, I don't know if he'll go anywhere else. I'm not sure what kind of money. I'm guessing he wants about $15 million per. Not sure if that's going to happen, okay, with the Green Bay Packers. You already see guys like Joe. Listen, he was drafted in the same class as Mixon, Dalvin Cook, Kamara, Christian McCaffrey. They've all signed big deals. The lowest being Mixon at $12 million. So he's definitely looking at about 11 to 13, I would say. So, number one, do you think he stays in Green Bay? And number two, if he doesn't, and let's just say he goes to the Miami Dolphins, what does that do for his fantasy appeal for you?
That's a good question. I don't think he stays in Green Bay. I don't think they're going to pay up for a running back. They drafted A.J. Dillon. He had a very brief showing, but I think what they saw, they would rather take that money and spend it elsewhere than pay Aaron Jones. We know a lot of those guys got paid, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna be worth it. You look at the Le'Veon Bell, you look at Todd Gurley. I'm not saying that its age is definitely a little bit different, but just a point, it's not ideal to start paying up for running backs in general, in my opinion. You have a good offensive line, an average running back can get through that hole. You know what I mean? The way you are truly elite is taking that great running back and tying it up with a great offensive line. That's where greatness really comes in. That's where a top 3 pick comes in. It's not one without the other. So a lot of it has offensive line. You mentioned Miami as a landing spot. I don't know what they're going to be. I don't know what their plans are down there. I mean, Gaskin had a pretty darn good year. I don't know what his contract situation is. He probably has another year or 2 left on his rookie deal, I think.
I think he's at least 1.
Yeah. So, and then you got the Salvin Ahmed. Both of them played really well when they were in the game. I don't know. Do they pay up there for Aaron Jones? I don't know how much of I do believe Aaron Jones is physically probably a top 10 running back in the NFL. But you have a decent line. Their offense, from a rushing standpoint, I mean, it was working pretty well. But if he does go to Miami, I think he will have a killer year because the running backs in the Miami offense also got peppered with passes. So he had some really good games with Green Bay, but he was also hit or miss. Like a lot of times he would either explode or just, I had 90 yards, no touchdowns. Like, well, that's good, but that's not what I need from you. Like, I need more. I need those touchdowns in those games. I need to see 4 or 5 catches, 6 catches, not 1, 2 catches. That's what you need out of them. And, the backs in Miami last year, they caught a lot of balls. So I think it would be a really good fit, Aaron Jones down in Miami. And we're going to talk about some of these guys. A lot of it obviously has to do with landing spots. So, if we got 30 seconds, I'd like to pull you just in general. So the potential I'm not saying tying the running back. I'm talking teams that would potentially need a running back. So I have my list here. All right. Okay. I'll run it down. You tell me if you agree that they're in the market for the guys we're going to talk about. So
let's roll.
Arizona, Chase Edmonds. Are they looking?
I think they are. I do, because I think it showed last year that when Kenyon Drake was out, I mean, we were all on that Chase Edmonds train a little bit. Saying, I know you are. You're very analytical with your stuff. I know I was like, oh, Chase. A lot of people were, and he floundered. So I think they're looking.
All right, Atlanta, Ito Smith, Brian Hill.
Oh, yeah, they're 100% looking.
Right.
Gurley's done.
All right, assuming Aaron Jones walks. Jamal Williams is also a free agent. Does Green Bay need a running back with potentially only AJ Dillon?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I think they were kind of showcasing AJ Dillon towards the end of the year to see if maybe he could handle running a rock. So I honestly think Aaron Jones is definitely gone. I don't think they need a running back because I think they're going to go all in on Williams and AJ Dillon. I think that's going to be their 1-2 punch.
All right, I'm crossing them off the list. Seattle. Carson and Hyde are both free agents, which leaves them with Rashar Penny, who I don't think he's played more than 10 snaps in 4 years. That dude cannot be on the field. Basically, it's him and a bunch of other, Travis Homer, Alex Collins, DJ Dallas. I mean, they have to be on the need list. You can't count on one of them 4 guys.
Well, here's my thing. I guess, so how do I answer this? Because I think they bring back Chris Carson. So,
okay. But right. if they don't that's them re-signing them. So fine, but they need to do something to that running back.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
So they're a yes.
All right, 100%.
Here, a little 2 dark horses.
Go ahead.
Washington with Gibson and McKissick. Would they be in the market?
No.
San Fran with Mostert and Wilson, but Coleman's probably walking. The way they want to run the rock, they like them 3-headed monsters.
They love it.
Do you think they would be in the market?
I don't think they are. I think they really love Jeff Wilson.
Buffalo.
Yes. 100% yes.
Yes. Jacksonville with James Robinson and whatever heck kind of rebuild they got going on down there.
What is
would they potentially be looking for a running back?
I think so. I think because Urban Meyer wants somebody that's going to be that Warwick Dunn style running back, and that's not James Robinson.
Miami, you don't think they're sold? Do they need a running back? Or Miami, you think they need a running back, Aaron Jones?
Yes.
The New York Jets, which I refuse to even list out the running backs that they currently have.
Come on, man.
What they ran with last year, it was blah. That's what I wrote down.
Yeah, 100%.
And last, Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously need a running back. Now, will they pay up in free agency is a whole different question. So basically, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 landing spots. That's who we think needs these free agents.
Yeah.
So it's Arizona, Atlanta, Seattle, Buffalo, Jacksonville, Miami, Jets, and Pittsburgh.
Well, Brian checking in. What's up, Brian? He says Aaron Jones in Miami truly the best fit for him, but Atlanta and possibly Buffalo would make sense to me too. Above the rest, listen, I'm totally agree with Brian right here. Miami just seems like the logical fit, but I just think that I don't think that Buffalo got what they wanted with Zach Moss. And I think that obviously they're not sold on Devin Singletary, and they know how close they are to getting that chip. I think they go all in on Aaron Jones. I do. I mean, now you look at this free agent class, and we're going to get into some names, but, he is the cream of the crop. Okay. And, after that, it's kind of like, top three, I'm going to guess, would say Aaron Jones, probably Chris Carson, and probably Kenyon Drake. So, and James Conner, we don't know, is it more James Conner? Was it more the team? And John will touch on that because he is the Pittsburgh guy here. But I think I see Buffalo making a tremendous push for Aaron Jones. I do. I think he makes much too much sense for them not to look his way.
I'm with Brian. I think Miami's the spot. I think it's a perfect fit. And you know what? I don't think the mentality in Buffalo is to land that expensive running back. I have a feeling that they're more comfortable taking another shot in the draft, picking up a guy, you know what I mean? There's a lot of college running backs that fall to the second, third, fourth, even fourth round that can be good NFL running backs. So I think they do get a running back, but it's via draft.
I could definitely see that. 100%. I could definitely see that, obviously, because of, the way that they are built. They are spending a lot of money across the offensive line, on the defense, in their, in Stephon Diggs, in their wide receiver. So I think they're really close. Brian made a good point about the offensive line. It's very, very strong, and they're so close to that chip. For me, I think they don't look at the draft, and I think they sign somebody. But let's get, besides OC, because it's fresh on my mind now, is the James Conner effect. I have to ask you, in your opinion, was James Conner, I know he dealt with a lot of injuries and he had a lot of different things going on, but was it more the offensive line in Pittsburgh, or was it more James Conner, in your opinion?
Offensive line.
So James Conner, do you
100%.
go somewhere and returns the form, in your opinion?
I'm not saying that. Look, when you're a playoff team and you rank in the bottom whatever, I don't even know officially what they were ranked. I don't have it up in front of me, but they had to be bottom 5 in the NFL in rushing, and you're a playoff team. That is not just a bad running back. That is not just an offensive line that can't run block. That is both. Because if you have one or the other, you ain't going to be in the bottom 5. So it's both of them. When the offensive line, look, Connor can run through a hole. All right. He's a pretty powerful guy. But the other thing was, look, it was a miserable year. And think about the progression of the Steelers offense. All right. It was Big Ben throwing the short passes. There was no threat of a deep ball. So all these linebackers were always just sitting there waiting for the short pass or stuffing the run, because they didn't have to worry about dropping a ton of guys in coverage for like long periods of time. So it was, everybody was crowded up to the line basically. So the line didn't block. He's running laterally instead of north and south. I can't tell you how many plays that he just tries going like right around the tackle and ends up like going out of bounds, like for a 0-yard gain. So some of it was the offensive scheme, Ben Roethlisberger, how the offense was working. Some of it was James Conner. Some was the offensive line. It's not a fix one thing and it'll get better. In terms of James Conner somewhere else, I think he would be a good fit in Buffalo. And I think you could get him a heck of a lot cheaper. I mean, if you put him behind a decent offensive line and a team that is willing to commit to the run, I think he could be a real value to that team. So cheaper version of Aaron Jones, basically. I don't know what Connor would command in the market.
That's interesting. I wonder what he would look at to command. Let me go on the site here with their predictions for PFF, and we're talking prediction James Conner 3 years, 20 million, 10 million total guaranteed, 8 signing. So an average value of about 6.7 million a year. So he's half of what Aaron Jones is going to get. Half of it. So you could be right. I mean, he could be a poor man's, Aaron Jones. I'm just not so sure because, to your point, it's a little bit of both. I feel like when Benny Snell came in at times, he looked really good. He was the faster of the backs, obviously. But then there was also times where Benny Snell looked really bad, which would lean back again to the offensive line. So I just have a problem with his health. That's my biggest thing. And the funny thing is, you'll like this. Their prediction says the Jets. Oh, no, yeah. The prediction says he's going to the Jets. So, I mean, we'll see about that. I have no faith in him to stay healthy, John. I don't.
And he might not. I'm not saying right now I could bank on him for 16 games. I mean, I think he's maxing out at 14 games. I mean, I will say that. But, the 14 games he does play, he could do a lot of damage if he has a decent offensive line. And if he misses them 2 games mid-season, that's fine. If it's at the end of the year, that's a bigger problem when you're going into the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that injury risk is something that's real with him.
Yeah. Well, first it was the concussions, which is always a problem because concussions can linger. He's had multiple concussions. So, he's already susceptible, right? And that's one of the biggest things, especially in today's NFL, right? I mean, you get dinged just a little bit and you're in trouble. So it's definitely something to look at. Now, the other end of the spectrum here is you wrote down these teams and we talked about Arizona and Kenyon Drake, who, we look at that. He was a fantasy football darling for a little while there. And then he tailed off and then he kind of picked it up again, right? Listen, we're only talking about a 26-year-old running back. We're not talking about a guy who's been in the league for 10 years here. But again, he is a guy who was. So here you go. I'll read you the overall grades right now so everybody can hear it. It says that he generated 2.5 yards per carry after contact and broke 31 tackles, that's really good numbers. But the lack of dominant production in a number one role will immediately scare off plenty of teams. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the inconsistency. He was up and down, up and down, up and down. There was times where he was had a game where he'd rush for 15 times for 30 yards. Right. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, there was times he was able over 4.5 yards per carry. So, he was expected to have a tremendous year in 2020 because remember, I was that numbers guy. You always tell me, you always say you can't do that because I remember coming in the last year in the offseason and saying, Kenyon Drake, if you look at his numbers, if you project them over a full season, man, this guy's a top 5 running back. And you were like, you can't do that. You can't do that. And John, this is why, right?
Yeah. There's certain guys that it's a nightmare with. And when we get to our what is it? The dead to me list. The dead to me list. I have a guy that fits that same mold because of the same reason.
That's great.
So
that's great.
While we're doing this, I want to line up. So where do we say Aaron Jones goes? I think Miami. Brian thinks Miami.
I say Buffalo.
You got to put Buffalo. You got to make things difficult.
I have to.
Carson, you say, well, I just want one list to see what the consensus is, but that's fine. Carson, do you think he goes back to Seattle?
Yes.
All right. We got so where do you think Connor goes? Does he go to Miami?
No.
You know where I think he would be a good fit?
Yeah, talk to me.
I think he would be a good fit in Seattle, truthfully.
He could. You know what? He could be. He's that kind of back, right? He's definitely that kind of back. 100%. I could definitely see him. You know,
and I can't see Drake anywhere. Maybe the Jets. I don't know who wants the Drake. Like,
yeah,
but in reality, who's willing to give Drake, you know what I mean, and pay him like a number one running back? Like, do you really, if you're going to go out and get that free agent running back and pay for him, that's the guy you're going to take? Like,
hey, how about we do this? I'm gonna switch this up for you because now you gave me an epiphany here. I just had a thought. So let's say Chris Carson doesn't re-sign with Seattle, and let's say that that James Conner goes to Seattle, and I'm gonna take Chris Carson and put him in Tampa Bay. I'm gonna put him in Tampa Bay, and I'm gonna take Kenyon Drake and say the Jets are gonna be that team to overpay for another running back, and they're going to go and get Kenyon Drake. So I think I like how that kind of comes to fruition there. I do. I really do. Now, Arizona still needs a back. I think Arizona goes the draft route, to be honest with you. But one name I will tell you to look out for Arizona is Mike Davis. I like Mike Davis. I think, that seeing what he did in Carolina, being that pass catching type back and being that alpha dog, that lead bull, I think he legitimizes that offense in Arizona. So there you go. There's my predictions right there. And you know what? I'll give you the wild card. Let's just have some fun with this. Give you the wild card. Lev Bell, our old boy Lev Bell. I think he becomes a Miami Dolphin. How's that? Let's go Lev Bell to the Miami Dolphins and call it a day. You like that?
Yeah, I guess. And
what's up, Mike? Look, Mike wants to know who's going to overpay for Juju. There you go. There's another question. Who's going to overpay for Juju?
I don't know. I'll think about that in a second. I don't know who's going to, but I know who's not going to, and that's Pittsburgh.
Hold on. I got breaking news here. Okay. I'm going to see if I can get this. John, while you're talking, I'm going to see if I can get this for us. But yeah, you're good. You're good. We're good.
Right, so,
I got some good stuff here for you. It's not even football related, but it'll be fun. But go ahead. What were you saying?
Okay, so one, we didn't fill the Pittsburgh running back situation.
Ooh.
We didn't fill that hole yet. All right.
Okay.
And we didn't even talk about the guy that I want them to get so bad, Marlon Mack.
Well, I
want him.
Get him.
I want Marlon Mack, like big time. That's the guy I want. He doesn't have that high price tag. I think he's an amazing back. If it wasn't for Jonathan Taylor or getting hurt, I'm telling you, he's a beast. And he's one of them guys that, dude, he wants to run you over too. That's what the Steelers run game needs to get back to. And I think getting a back that's willing to do that, I mean, that's the guy that I think, look, is there risk because of injury? Absolutely. But, I think at that price tag, the value, I mean, it's just the potential outweighs, it's a huge value.
Mike says, I see Bell in the Miami scene as well. No income tax. He in India, Marlon Mack is in Indy, but he's a free agent. So, it's funny, John, because now that I'm thinking of it, we left out Pittsburgh. You're talking about Marlon, but you know what? Mike Davis could be a nice. Even though I say Tampa Bay, Mike Davis could be a nice. Or here you go. How about Leonard Fournette? Leonard Fournette is the prototypical. I'm not saying he needs to be your number one, but what I'm saying is he's a prototypical running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion. He's that bull ram, right? His battering ram. I could see him in Pittsburgh.
It's all about the price tag. I don't think the Steelers should pay up for a running back, and I don't think they will pay up for a running back. I like the value of a Marlon Mack and plugging him in there. I like drafting a guy in the second round or whatever. Look, they got to clean up that offensive line, period. All right. I don't care if you can if you get Aaron Jones and stick him in that same offense behind that same offensive line, Aaron Jones ain't doing squat.
I like it. I like it. No, you're right. I mean, listen, bringing Big Ben back, right? Bringing Big Ben back, and I know we talked about that. And we'll have other episodes about that as well. But so let's just say the list is what it is. So let just taking teams out of it, or even if you want to label the teams like we wrote down on paper, who makes the biggest fantasy impact based on what we're talking about here this year? I mean, listen, one of the big reasons why Aaron Jones was so good because he played on a team like the Green Bay Packers, who constantly were causing attention by guys like Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, right? So if he were to go to a team like a Miami, okay, he's going to be zoned in big time. If he goes to a team like Buffalo, he's going to have the same kind of issues on a positive side that he had in Green Bay, because he's going to have Josh Allen. He's going to have Stephon Diggs, right? He's going to have the attention grabbers like he had in Green Bay. So who makes the biggest fantasy impact in your opinion?
I still think Aaron Jones, wherever he goes, is the biggest impact. Like I said at the beginning, he's a top 10 running back in the NFL. So I think wherever he goes, look, the team that pays up for him is going to, you're not going to have the last place team paying up for Aaron Jones with no, plan. So I think he goes to a team that needs one additional piece. Miami's intriguing, but I think he would be a good fit there if they want to spend. Hey, look, if all he wants is money, he could go where he could go to the Jets. I wonder how he would perform with the Jets. That's the biggest question of them all. But I mean, truthfully, outside of him, I don't know what Marlon Mack's recovery time is, but I really think that if he's back to full speed or something close to it. He was never a burner. It's not like he was going to run away from you or anything, but he could catch the ball out of the backfield. And look, I mean, even if it's not fully like at the start of the year, I think he could be a very big surprise to whatever team he goes to.
Yeah, no, you're right. He could be, because he showed how talented he really was. And he had some major games, big time. And, obviously they're full speed ahead with Jonathan Taylor, and they still have Nyheim Hines. So obviously it makes him expendable. And, there was a lot of talk about him and the Philadelphia Eagles having some kind of marriage because of Nick Sirianni. So it's interesting dynamic, because guess what? What you just said about Marlon Mack, if he goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, just take that right out of the equation, because his fantasy value is just dead because of, you have Miles Sanders there. You don't know how they're going to do the running back. So, it comes full circle. It really does. But I got to show you this, John. This just popped up, and we're going to get to the dead to me list in a couple minutes. But I just, I was putting the sure bet on, online so everybody could get it. And then I come across this, which I love it. I'm a fan. That's Shaq in the ring, okay, whipping a power bomb. Okay, in AEW. Like, are you serious right now? Look at this. How can you not love? I mean, Shaquille O'Neal doing his thing. I know it has nothing to do with fantasy, but man, I'll tell you what, man.
This was your breaking news. Yeah, wait, let me just clarify. This was your breaking news. Yeah.
Look at how big this dude is. He's gigantic. He's not even a wrestler. Oh, I love it. I love it. I can't. I love wrestling, man. I love it. Oh man, I can't. I just couldn't believe that. I had to throw that out there.
Shaq is my man. He is my man.
Let me tell you, man. I love it. I absolutely love it. Oh, Shaq as the power bomb. I love it. But let's get to this dead to me list. Okay. I figure we go about an hour tonight, and we got about 5-10 minutes left, and we had some wonderful things from Anne Shorr, as always, at ANE Shorr. It's so simple. Anne Shorr, ANNESHORR. Go give her a follow. She's doing some stuff with us at Heat Ratio Sports. We're going to try to get her on a guest as well for, we just signed a brand new show here on the network, Betting for Breakfast, Mark Drumheller and Dave Glock. So we're going to try to get her as a guest on that show as well. I know Mark's going to be reaching out to her. So for all you handicapping people out there, go check it out. She's legit. She knows her stuff. Listen, anybody that's in Vegas just to pick up some paper on must wins, you know she knows what she's talking about. Just listen to her break down George Mason of all teams tonight. I mean, and Northwestern. Like, come on. The only other person I know that can do that is my boy Drum. So there'll be a match made in heaven. Very glad Coach Dave turned me on to you guys. Love listening. Have a good night, Joe. Oh, Brian, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Any friend of anyone who's a friend of Coach Dave is a friend of ours. I can tell you that. Coach Dave was having a good time last night with his Biggie song. So we had Coach Dave. He was calling him Big Poppy instead of Big Pop. I was like, yo, Dave, come on, man. It was fun. But let's get into this Dead to Me list because I have a lot of fun with this. And John knows I'm a little over the top at times. And it's why I got the name Jigsaw. I can't help it. It's in my nature. The energy you see is not from 5 hour energy drinks. It's not from, I'm not shooting 8 balls up in the bathroom. This is just who I am, right? So I'm probably going to die very young of a heart attack because I can't help myself. But what I will say is there's certain guys that have to be dead to me when either I am drafting on a fantasy football level or fantasy basketball, fantasy baseball, if I'm taking them in a DFS matchup, if I'm taking them on a parlay. Listen, I would tell you, I'm going to give you 3 right off the bat that come to my mind. 2 of them just this year. Okay, Patrick Beverley, okay, completely dead. Bury him alive. He's completely dead to me. Okay, twice. I needed 1 stinking 3-pointer from Patrick Beverley to win $2,000 on a parlay, and he couldn't do it. 1 for 5, Pat. Get lost. I'll never touch Patrick Beverley again. Another guy is that stiff Kelly Olynyk. I don't even know why I was selling myself on Kelly Olynyk and a DFS. Listen, he was consistent. He was 20, 25, right, for like 4,500. Go start Kelly Olynyk. I guess his hair was too tight that night in the ponytail because he stunk it up too. 2 nights in a row, gave another shot. He's dead to me. And then the all-time dead to me list is, this is hard, it's Keenan Allen. You will never see Keenan Allen on a Jigsaw Cotillo fantasy team. And I know John shaking his head, he wants to draft with me, but I'll tell you what, he boned me 2 years in a row, okay? And guess what? Because of that, he gets the DTM label. So, John, who is on the DTM label on your team?
Oh, you took care of some basketball, so I'll go with my top 2 sports.
Okay.
So, football-wise, look, I'm sorry, Melvin Gordon, I can't deal with you anymore. Like, I just can't deal with you anymore. All right. Value, potential. I can't deal with you anymore. Okay. Just period. So on that side, we talked about the guy that's up and down with the stats, right? I told you I had a guy for you.
What's up, Trevor?
I can't do Tyler Lockett. Can't do it.
Ooh.
Can't do it anymore. Cannot do it. He is always at that bottom tier or like the last guy in a tier of certain receivers where it's like, okay, this is the last guy that I could even consider as like a pseudo number 1 if I get to that. Like if I have a Kelsey and 2 running backs or something and I got to deal with Lockett as my number 1. Dude, I'll tell you what, that guy's gone. In terms of baseball, I'm sorry, Giancarlo Stanton, I can't deal with you. Like I won't do it. And the one that has bit me because every year I'm like, nah, next year will be different. David Price. All right. He went and he was just so elite and then like had a little hiccup. And then, dude, I'm sorry. I just can't deal with you. Can't deal with you. So those are my 4. Melvin Gordon, Tyler Lockett, Stanton, and David Price.
I'm glad you brought up Stanton because to me, he is such a fraud. in fantasy. He is. And listen, in real life, he is. He's so overhyped all the time, and he sucked me in a couple times. And whether he's always injured or he goes to these really dark and gloomy slumps where he can't hit anything. Couldn't hit a beach ball if he tried. So yeah, I'm with you. I do not take Giancarlo Stanton at all. He's on my list. I mean, you think about. There's so many people that are on the dead to me list. So I think we're actually going to start. This is what we're going to do next. I don't know if we're going to do it. I think it'll be fun for football. And we'll start it for baseball. We'll let basketball ride. And what we're going to start doing is when baseball starts, we'll have a weekly dead to me list. And it'll just be that player. And then, whoever's on the show, whether it just be me and John or, maybe Ann has one for the handicappers. We have Drum back on. Or, maybe we have Dan, our buddy Dan Green on, or who knows. But we're going to have a dead to me list. And then what we'll do is we'll keep track. And then at the end, we'll see how many people we had on the dead to me list and who the top guys were, how they kind of fared at the end of the year. So I think it'll be pretty interesting to kind of keep track of. So I put the wrong tag here. That's the Shore bet. But yeah, listen, we put a lot of time and investment, John, in these statistics and these research. And when these guys just don't perform, it's a really tough pill to swallow, man. It really is. So, I hate to sound greedy, but they just got to do better, John. They just got to do better.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about having this segment, and I don't know what guy it is. I don't even know what sport, if it was football or baseball. But there's a guy that I've been hit or miss for like 4 years in a row. Like, I get the guy a year too early. I don't get him the next year. He blows up. I get him the third year. He stinks. I let him go. He blows up. So like 4 years in a row, I had him 2 years, and I have him the 2 years he has a down year.
Wow.
And I forget who it is, and it's driving me nuts.
The funny thing is, when you talk about that, we're talking about this, it's really killed me this year because in DFS. Because if for those listening, everybody knows I do the DFS daily 3 play, and what I do is I pick that high tier, mid tier, low tier, and I'm always money on the mid and the low tier, which you would think they're the guys usually are hard, right? But for some reason, my top tiers, I'm going for a 5-week straight snowflake streak here, man. Like, I don't get it. Like, it's like dudes could score 60 a night, and then when Tony picks them, it's a 35, and it's a snowflake all the time. So I don't know what it is. I'm like kryptonite to these guys, dude. I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, I did have 2 NBA daily guys that were on my list, but they weren't at your level. I got Trae Young and Luka Doncic.
Yes.
Every time I play them, they have the worst game. I 2 different times I think I had like all flames except for that dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, dude. And not only once, but then it happens multiple times, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm not spending the money on you. Like, I'm just not doing it.
No, you're like, I'm done. You just cut bait, dude. You cut all ties. That's what you have to do.
Yep.
I had Nikola Jokic did it to me twice. I think he's got two games under 40 all year. They're both when I picked them to be my stud. I'm done. I'm paying $11,000 for this guy. I can't afford a snowflake, man. Like, it's just not happening.
I was putting in a lineup tonight, and I was on the fence with James Harden. He was 11K on DraftKings. So that's a big nugget, and
real big.
I think he was going to have a real game, but that up and down there, plus it's against Houston. So I really think he's going to blow up, but is 11K blow up? Like, I could just see him, not also.
I had a couple of people reach out to me because I didn't record live today. I kind of just threw the tweet out there, and a couple of them were really in on Harden and predicting like 85-point nights. Now, like 85. When we say that, we're talking about DraftKings points, and that's a big night. I mean, I had Joe, and you had Joe when he had 92, but 85 is a big night. Now, he had some ridiculous stat line last game, like 30, 16, and 14. Like,
Yeah.
it was like
Well, he got triple doubles in 2 of his last 4 games, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. He listen, he is taking on the role of Kevin Durant and being the number one guy on that Brooklyn team. He kind of took, a side step back a little bit, with Kyrie when he said, you know what, I'll let Kyrie run the point. I'll just sit in the background, not a big deal. But now that KD's out, he's just taking over, man. And for all the people that say he doesn't play defense, come on, man. He doesn't drop no dimes. You're not watching the game, man. Not watching the game. James Harden's an electric player, and they're a scary team. But yeah, the dead to me list is always fun.
Well, Houston, how are they even doing this year? Don't they stink?
Yeah, they stink.
Right. So I don't even know how much Harden's actually going to – that was the other piece. Are they really going to max him out, going into the break? Are they going to push him that hard when if they're up in the second half? How many minutes does he get? I don't know. Like I said, just paying up that $11,000, it was just like another reason in my head. Like, I don't know. What if it's a blowout?
No, you're right. It's a good point because I didn't even think about the All-Star factor. That's a great point. I didn't even think about that. This being, some of these guys' last game before the All-Star break. I mean, I didn't even think of that. It's a great point. I can't wait for All-Star weekend, by the way. But I
assume that's this weekend.
Yes. And then again, I know it's not.
Are they do? I know they're doing the dunk contest. Are they doing the 3-point as well?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Because I remember
I didn't look at it.
Yeah, as far as I know, Damian Lillard was like the first one to put his hat in the ring for that. So, I'm guessing they are. I know the dunk contest is set, but 3-point contest, I'm not. Let me look at that because now I'm curious because I know it was back and forth.
That is the one thing that I could. There have been years where I probably didn't watch one NBA game, but I will watch the dunk in the 3-point contest. Like, I've been doing that since I was a kid, man.
Me too, man. Me too.
It's almost like a little mini holiday. You know what I mean?
So here you go. So the 3-point contest will feature Golden State, Steph Curry, Devin Booker, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, and Zach LaVine. So Lillard isn't in there. I thought he was, but he's not. The skills competition will feature Luka Doncic, Chris Paul, Julius Randle, Sabonis, Nikola Vucevic, and Robert Covington. And then you have right, and the dunk contest will be will be Anthony Simmons of Portland, Obi Toppin from New York, Cassius Stanley from Indiana. So, listen,
only 3 guys.
Only 3 guys. But it looks like Stanley's the guy that everybody's looking at. So we'll see. I don't know much about him, but it says their 2-round competition will be judged by 5 former dunk contest champions: Dominique Wilkins, Jason Richardson, Josh Smith, Spud Webb, and D. Pump It Up Brown.
Oh, I want to see Neek and Spud together again.
Yes, exactly. That would be fantastic. I mean, listen.
You think Spud could still dunk?
You know what? I bet you he could. I bet you he could, man.
No
Seriously.
way.
I would not doubt it at all.
Neek could dunk, but I don't think Spud still got the hops. I mean, how old Spud Webb got to be?
It's got to be 50 something, right? 55.
Yeah,
58?
I mean, you got to have a lot of hops when you're that small, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would love to see him prove me wrong this weekend. I would love to see it.
And we all know when you hit that 35 to 40 range, you start packing on a little weight. So I'm sure Spud ain't super slim anymore.
Spud might be a full potato right now. We don't know.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be cool. I'll tell you what, this just gave me an idea for Sunday too, which is going to be pretty cool. So for everybody listening, as we close this out, join me Sunday for the weekly sports blend. I'm doing something a little different every Sunday, taking a break from DFS and fantasy and just talking real world sports. And we're gonna. It's a historic show. We just look back. Like last show, we did the prime stars the last 20-25 years. We had a lot of conversation with guys like Michael Phelps and Steffi Graf and Greg Louganis, Lance Armstrong. I mean, people that know, like, that we forget how lucky we've been. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to do years every week. So this week is 2005. So we're going to break down everything 2005 for an hour. But it makes me think I better have that 2005 dunk contest and 3-point contest on there as well, because now I'm curious to who that was. So there's some fun stuff. But as always, listen, we're going to wrap this up for Tony Cotillo, John Coker, at T Cotillo 23, at PGH John 36, at Heat Ratio Sports. Listen, there's a sure bet right there. We thank Anne Shorr. We got about 12 minutes to get that bet in. If you'd like to hit it, it's the Maryland Northwestern game. Take the over 131.5. That's straight from Anne Shorr at ANE at. I would say I forget the other N at ANNESHORR on Twitter. She gives premium picks for pickdogs.com, sportschatpalace.com, sportschatplace.com. Check them out as well. Check her out. She's all over. Right now, she's in Vegas living it up. So good luck to Ann. But as I like to say, as always, not only hit the subscription button, not only hit the notification bell, not only hit the follow button, but everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll catch you next week.